Last week, we heard for our gospel the parable of the wicked tenants, where a landowner wanted to collect the fruits when it was season time, and the tenants decided not to give the fruits that was due to the landowner, and in fact, they killed those people in charge of collecting the fruits, and even they killed the son of the landowner himself. This present Sunday, again, we have a new parable, and again, we can perceive moments of hostility, and again, in this parable, we perceive violence, just like in the past Sunday's gospel. So today, I would like to share with you 3 comments on today's parable. The first comment has to do with the wedding feast and the banquet. When you think about it, what is a wedding feast and what is a banquet? It's a beautiful event, right? A banquet and a wedding feast is an occasion when we can satisfy our hunger, when we can delight ourselves in tasteful dishes, and when we have the company of our friends and we can enjoy the company of the people we love. The banquet is those 3 levels: fulfilling our necessity, enjoying the pleasure of the good food and the good drinks, and also enjoying the company of the people you love. And in the Bible, the banquet or the wedding feast is an image that speaks a lot about the kingdom of heaven, because in the kingdom of heaven, these 3 things happen too. All of our needs are satisfied. We enjoy the pleasure of the vision of God, and we enjoy the communion with the people we love, with the saints and the angels, as we praise and glorify God. So when you come to think about it, the banquet is a beautiful image of what heaven really is. But this has an interesting relation with our lives, because the church teaches us that here on earth we have a pre-taste of the banquet of heaven. Although this pre-taste is not the same as the banquet, it is true that while we are pilgrims on this earth, we have a pre-taste of something that is similar to the banquet of heaven. What am I talking about? I'm talking about the Eucharist. The Eucharist is supposed to be, for us Catholics, a pre-taste of the wedding feast of the last day of history. The Eucharist is supposed to be the banquet where all of our needs are satisfied, where we enjoy the pleasure of receiving communion, and when we enjoy also the communion with God and with the saints. But sometimes it may happen to us, especially when we're growing up, or maybe when we're full adults, that Mass feels like a burden and something that I have to, like a checkbox that I have to mark. But I think that today, when the parable offers us these beautiful images of banquet, you and me, we are reminded that we're supposed to come each Sunday to the Holy Mass so that we can feed from the food of the Word and the food of the body of Christ. So I think that my first challenge would be, brothers and sisters, every Sunday we should come to Mass with excitement, with illusion, with a desire to be fulfilled in this banquet that is a pre-taste, that is a foretaste of the banquet of heaven. Second point, in the parable, this incredible banquet that the king is hosting for his son, he sends his servants to make invitations to the banquet. And I want to share a personal story from my own life. When I was growing up and when I was in high school, one of my classmates, he came from a very, 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 very rich family. In fact, my buddy, my friend, his family, they were the owners of a big supermarket chain in Peru. In the same way that you have Costco, in Peru we have a supermarket called Wong. And this guy, his family they were the owners of this supermarket. And you know what was really neat? My friend, every 2 years, he hosted a party for his birthday. And his parties were the best parties of the year. Because, the best music, the best food, the best drinks, everything was. So I remember when I was growing up with my friends, we would say, hey, 1 month from now is the party. And then 2 weeks from now is the party. And the same week, it would be like, hey, a couple of days from now, and we would talk about who's invited and who's not invited. And we were all looking forward to the weekend so we could go to the party of this buddy. But when you see the gospel and the parable, there's something that's really strange. In the parable, who was hosting the banquet? The king. And the king in the days of Jesus, he was a man who threw the best parties. And it was the party for his son who was getting married. It was not even a birthday party. It was a special party. But when you see the parable, those invited to the party, they said, I'm busy. I don't want to go. I have to do my business. I have to go to take care of my land. That doesn't make sense, right? Because if we get excited for a birthday party that was every 2 years, how do these people in the gospel weren't excited about a unique party because it was the wedding feast of the Son? What does this have to do with our lives? I think that in the same way that we think that these guests were so foolish in not accepting the invitation, aren't we as foolish as they are when we turn down the invitations that God makes to each one of us? And I think there's a particular invitation that God makes to each one of us. The invitation to a personal friendship, the invitation to a prayer life. How many times in a confessional I hear people say, I didn't pray because I get distracted on my phone or watching TV or on Instagram. How many times have I heard that? All the time. And it's the same thing that in the gospel. They reject the invitation for things that are worldly and much less valuable. So in the same way that we think of this guest as foolish, we should also recognize our own foolishness, I hope that's a word, in our own life when you receive those invitations and you turn them away. The invitation to be more generous for your prayer life. Today is a special day for our parish. Today we're hosting a fair where you're going to know about all of our ministries. How many times have we been invited to give more of our life, to be generous with our time and our talents and our treasure, and we turn down those invitations because we prefer to attend to our business? Last comment. When the banquet is going on and the party is on, the parable says that the king was walking around, the party, and he noticed that one of the guests didn't have the wedding garment. This passage, not having the wedding garment, makes me think about a different passage from the gospel. Do you remember the gospel of the 10 virgins? Where 5 virgins had oil in their lamp and 5 forgot to go for the oil and were late? It's the same thing. It's not being ready when you're supposed to be ready. So the question for you is, what is the wedding garment that we should be wearing at all times without excuse? Some specialists say that the wedding garment is charity, but I'll give you a more specific answer. The wedding garment that no Catholic should be without is the wedding garment of sanctifying grace. If you had the misfortune of committing a mortal sin, if you had the misfortune of falling away from the state of grace, the parable of today is reminding us the importance of wearing the wedding garment at all times, without exception. So I want to encourage you, if we ever had the misfortune of committing a mortal sin, do you know what we should do? We should go as soon as we could to the confessional and seek absolution to recover that grace. That is why it is so hard for me as a priest to understand how sometimes people who haven't been in the state of grace can come to confession after a month, after a week, after 3 months, when the gospel is so clear about the importance of wearing all the time the wedding garment of grace. So, brothers and sisters, number one, today they speak about a banquet that reminds us that the Eucharist is supposed to be, for us, the food that we find in the Word and in the body. And this food and this banquet will really satisfy all of the needs that we have in our heart. Second, today we have heard about guests who were foolish because they turned down the invitation for an incredible party. Are we going to keep turning down those invitations that God is making to each one of us to commit in a more serious prayer life or to get more involved with the parish in a ministry? And third point, today we are reminded that the wedding garment is something we're supposed to use at all times. And that means no Catholic should fall away from the state of grace. And if we had the misfortune of falling away, we should seek confession with the same urgency as if we were in need of going to ER.